Salutations, fellow idiots. Welcome back to yet another episode of Full Moon Madness. Uh, Today we have for you a special live episode where I'm going to be joined by our buddy Boris, all the way from Croatia.
Oh,
Uh,
hello, thank you.
hey, you can check him out in like Dark Zone 13, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, Joe Sherlock's horror anthology, Dark Zone 13. It consists of several horror shorts, and one of them I worked on. Well, I directed it, and Joe wrote and edited it. Yeah, I played a part in that one, and it was a great honor to me because I'm a big Joe Sherlock fan, and also another short in that anthology involves Jackie Neeman, who is famous for her role in Manos, The Hands of Fate, and Manos Returns.
Hell
So
yeah.
yeah, it was it's kind of a big deal for me to be a part of that anthology.
Manos is one of the best movies ever made. I don't care what anyone says.
Uh, I enjoyed it too. At one point, I was going to cosplay that character, but eventually I didn't get to it. It would have been kind of expensive to get that costume made, although maybe eventually I'll do it.
You should, dude. I think that's a great idea. We've also
Thank
got
you.
my buddy Krol here with us today.
Yo,
This was a discussion that we have had planned for quite a while. As you know, me and Krol are both big comic book fans, and our film today concerns stuff of that nature. We're going to be talking about 1992's Dr. Mordrid. It is a full moon feature that was directed or co-directed by Charlie and his father, Albert Band. It was written by C. Courtney Joyner. It was produced by Charles Band, obviously. It stars Jeffrey Combs, Jay Acavone, Brian Thompson, and Yvette Napar. It's got cinematography by Adolfo Bartoli, which you could pretty much say about just every fucking full moon movie in the 90s, practically. It was edited by Lauren A. Schaefer. It's got music by Richard Band. It was distributed by Full Moon Entertainment and released on September 24th, 1992. Actually, never realized that. Actually, I may have realized that when I reviewed the movie last year, but that's a day before my birthday.
oh, nice.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think I was 4 years old when this came out. So,
It's funny, Brian Thompson. He doesn't look like a Brian Thompson. Like when I saw his name, like that's his name. Like I've seen him in so many movies, and so many shows, movies. He always plays a villain. He doesn't usually play the main villain though. He's been in Buffy quite a few times as a vampire. Yeah, this time I saw him and he has hair. He usually doesn't really have hair, especially not long hair. And I look like three
he's
times.
got a
Is that really
glorious
him?
fucking mullet in this.
But it was him, and it was him this time, and he had long hair, and he plays the main villain this time, and it was pretty cool.
It's nice to see him get the chance to shine,
Yeah,
because like you said, he usually is sort of like the buff vampire enforcer or something like that.
Yeah.
He's just sort of the main henchman to the main villain or something.
Yeah, exactly. He's the right hand man next to the man.
He gets plenty of screen time, man. We see those big old lips all over this movie. It's fucking pretty great.
Yep, that long blonde hair.
So basically, the gist of Mordrid, for those of you that are unaware, is that it was originally supposed to be an official Doctor Strange movie. Somewhere along the lines during pre-production, Full Moon had a lot of different, things brewing in the 90s. They were always working on like 4 or 5 movies at once, I feel like. So pre-production on some of these could take a while. And in the time that, they were building up to actually doing the movie, they either lost the rights from Marvel to do Doctor Strange, or it just lapsed, like enough time had passed that they would have had to purchase the rights again. So they just said whatever and like just did the movie anyways and just changed the name to Dr. Mordrid instead of Doctor Strange. But you can very clearly see that it's supposed to be a Doctor Strange movie.
Ooh, interesting.
This is definitely not one that I have like a huge history with. It's more of a newer discovery for me with the Full Moon Library. It wasn't like a childhood rental classic or anything like that, like some of their other movies, but I've grown very fond of it. We'll get into, you know, my impressions on it in a moment, but I guess we'll start with you, Krol, since it was your pick. What was your impression of this film?
Yeah, well, it was the production was better than I had expected. When you first mentioned it to me, for some reason I thought it was like an '80s movie. So it's '90s, lower budget, but you know, it was still the production was pretty good. I enjoyed it. It had a nice little story. Had a few good scenes in it. Got to see some sweet tits. That's always a good thing.
True
Yeah,
enough, yeah.
it was just a fun movie, fun fun movie that I would have enjoyed even if it was Doctor Strange or otherwise. Yeah, I feel like if it was Doctor Strange, we might not have gotten the sexy tits though.
Maybe. I mean, the 90s was a different time for sure. Marvel
No.
wasn't quite the hot property in
Oh well, yeah. I
Hollywood that
mean,
it is now, you
obviously
know. So,
Disney didn't own it yet, so yeah.
but I imagine you're right. Yeah, I don't think Stan Lee was going to be signing off on titties in the Doctor Strange movie, which is unfortunate. But
Yeah.
you know, those current movies could definitely use some tits. Not that they're not awesome, but tits definitely tend to make
I definitely like to
things
see some Gamora tits would be
better.
nice.
Yeah, dude. Must be Scarlet
Well,
Witch's boobies, dude.
just give me some of those green some of those green titties.
Yeah, whip them out. So Boris, this was your first time watching this, I assume, yeah?
Yes, it was the first time, and I must say I found this movie quite interesting and quite unique. One thing I found quite interesting is how it combines the science fiction elements with demonology and stuff like that. I think it's a rather unique combination, and I was quite intrigued by that because I kind of like movies with demons and stuff. Well, not kind of, I like them a lot.
Right.
Love them.
I'm sorry, Krol, what did you say?
I said you love them.
Yes, I do. So yeah, when I read the synopsis on IMDb, I expected more of a sci-fi movie. So these demonic elements were a nice surprise for me, and to me personally, it really made it quite interesting. I just kind of think the movie could have been a little longer because got just when it got the most interesting, the rest of it kind of played out very quickly. So maybe these final fights and so on could have been a little longer, but other than that, it was pretty good.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that tends to be the case. Full Moon likes to try to keep their movies typically right around like 70, maybe 80 minutes at the longest, you know. And that hurts
Kinda
them
short.
sometimes, you know. This could have been longer. There was definitely, I feel like, some planned sort of crossover stuff of sorts that we'll get to. Full Moon was always really ahead of the curve with this kind of stuff. I mean, when you think about even doing a Doctor Strange movie in the 90s, that's a pretty ambitious idea, you know. There wasn't really a ton of superhero movies back then. So to go for something that's kind of even a deep cut like Doctor Strange shows, I think, that they were proper fans of the comics for sure. And
Right.
I've always just found it fascinating how hard they actually kind of nail it with this for the time period and what they had to do it with, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
It's true to the Doctor Strange shit for sure, you know. It might not be word for word exactly right because they had to change some stuff, but
Well, they did call his apartment the Inner Sanctum, so that was pretty cool.
yeah, right. Instead of the Sanctum Sanctorum or whatever the hell it's called in the
Yeah.
actual thing.
Yeah, Sanctorium. They called it
I
his
think
Inner Sanctum, which I thought was really cool.
right, and I mean, I think Strange sometimes deals with the Watcher, isn't it? And in this, I think it's called the Monitor, is the thing that like
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
So,
it kind of reminded me of Hera on Hercules, with just seeing the eyes.
right.
That's all you ever saw of Hera from the beginning of Hercules.
But yeah, man, I mean, I find the movie fascinating. It's super charming. It's got some rad stop motion in there, which I'm always a fan of. Ever since Clash of the Titans and shit like that as a kid, I'm just a sucker for stop motion. And we get a badass stop motion dinosaur battle. It's pretty sick.
Oh
But-
yeah.
Now the first commercial break. Now I watched the commercials. Okay, first commercial break, he poofs, and just as he poofs, they go into commercial. I'm like, that was good timing. That's actually really perfect timing. It was like poof, and then it's commercial.
Yeah, I find Tubi, I feel like they do
It
set
wasn't
them up
Tubi.
pretty good.
It
You
wasn't.
didn't watch it on Tubi?
No, I don't like Tubi. Tubi's too many commercials.
Yeah, usually there's only like 3 or 4. But
It feels like 100.
I don't know. I don't even notice it, man. It's
I do.
usually good.
Tubi has more than most. I watched
I
it on
would hard disagree on that.
Fandango,
But,
the Fandango channel, whatever channel it is. I forgot the name of it.
it could be too. I think though Tubi starts showing you less ads. Like if you watch like a movie on there and then you watch something else, I feel like the more I watch on there in a day, the less ads show up in it.
Oh, okay. I don't ever watch more than one.
Yeah, usually I'm watching like 3 or 4 things on Tubi in a given session. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, I mean, it's got a lot going for it. It's got really great performances by the cast. Everybody, Yvette Napar, Jeffrey Combs, Brian Thompson, they're all just killing it. Even those side characters are pretty rad. I like that dude that's like the heavy metal guy that's all into like Satan and shit, and he becomes his minion. He like gives him that power up there. He's invincible.
Oh yeah.
I like his girlfriend was hot.
Oh yeah.
I love that fucking part where that guy just chucks that Molotov cocktail into that cop car. Like, fuck
oh yeah. Oh yeah. One of my favorite aspects of this movie is how they all, both Mordrid and the bad guys, how they fuck with the authorities. I think that's awesome.
I like
Yeah, it's great.
I like the old lady told that guy to shut that stupid dog up.
That's a fucking big ass dog he has too. That's
Oh.
like not an apartment dog at all.
Fucking annoyed the hell out of me too. I'm like, yeah, woman, you tell that asshole. I have a right to have my dog, and dogs bark. Yeah, well, she has a right to fucking sleep, you asshole.
So
I'm not a fan of dogs, you can tell, but
I'm kind of I like some dogs. I'm generally a cat person, but
cats
some
rule.
dogs can be okay. So I mean, we're not gonna do beat by beat. We're just gonna kind of generally discuss the movie, but just to give a quick rundown of the plot. Essentially, Mordrid is tasked with watching over Earth by the Monitor to make sure that Brian Thompson's character Cabal doesn't escape from his little dimensional prison that they put him in because he was a naughty wizard. And he wants to, put together these
Alchemist.
pieces. What's that?
Alchemist.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah,
They actually
he's
say that in
mixing
the
some
movie.
stuff up.
They call him a
They
wizard,
do,
and then
yeah.
he goes corrections as alchemist. So had to.
Excuse me, fucking. But he wants to put together this spell that will unleash all these demons of this other dimension and cause chaos on Earth. And he's just
All
your
his
general
children.
bad guy, Yeah. And so Strange obviously is meant to stop this from happening. He ends up teaming up with, is she a reporter? I think she's
No.
like some type of investigator for the.
No. She's like what do you call it? Like when Lucifer was to the police department. Same thing.
Yes.
She helps.
It's
She
like
helps
some
with
type
cases.
of a consultant.
Yeah,
or
she's
whatever.
consultant for the
Yeah.
police department. Yeah.
She's like not a cop, but she's kind of an investigator or a consultant of some kind. Yeah. And she just happens to live up the hallway from Mordrid, who it turns out my favorite element of it is that he's actually the landlord of the building.
Yeah. She's like,
And I
why is
think
my
at one
rent check here?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah,
which just kind of, I mean, I imagine none of their apartments are magical like his is. His seems very large, you know?
Right? Like she's like, this is amazing when she goes in. I love when she said, this place was a lot nicer, you know, 100 years ago. And he goes, it was, and then she's like, huh? And he's like, oh, I imagine it was.
Yeah. That was a great part. I think the whole thing with Mordrid is he's been stationed on Earth or whatever for
Over 100 years, yeah.
Yeah, I think it specifically says maybe like 250 or 350. So he's been chilling for a while, just watching over the planet. And kind of just keeping track of any magical disturbances, I
From
imagine.
the fourth dimension.
Yeah, we don't really see any other adventures that he's gone on, but his whole setup and how schooled he is at this kind of implies that he's been on other adventures other than this.
Well, they do say that one of the books he has is like 200 years old. Because he's like, she's looking at his books and she looks at one of the books like, this is over 200 years old, the book. And so
yeah, not the typical thing you see laying around some penthouse apartment in New York or wherever. I think this might actually supposed to be like Chicago. I think they sort of switch up the city too, so that it's not exactly like Doctor Strange, even though he's clearly Doctor Strange.
Right.
So yeah, that's basically the movie in a nutshell. Is Cabal is able to bust out of there or whatever. He blinds this sweet old Watchman in the process, and he's made his way to Earth. Fucking hey, dude, it looks gnarly too.
Does.
I love that whole set, like the whole miniature in the sky that they have for that prison area in whatever dimension that's supposed to be in. It just looks so rad.
It does. It does look rad.
Yeah.
Yeah, visually, this movie has a ton going for it. When you consider that it wasn't even done with like a proper full Hollywood budget, it just makes it
that's what I'm saying.
amazing.
It was early 90s, which early 90s had some decent, but then you got to remember it didn't have a big budget, So yeah, I mean it did pretty well for a lower budget movie, definitely.
Yeah,
exactly.
Definitely, dude.
It was an enjoyable movie, which is more than I can say for other movies. Some movies.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's solid. I put it right, like maybe not up there on the same level as obviously something like Batman Returns or whatever, because that was a full Hollywood budget. But I'd say that this sits pretty solidly next to shit like The Shadow or Dark Man. It's a classic piece. Yeah, it really is. It's a classic piece of 90s superhero action, and it's a shame that they weren't able to spin it off into more stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know, man. Go ahead. Sorry, Boris.
Yeah, I definitely think this movie kind of deserves a sequel.
Oh yeah, it would have been nice. It would have been nice if they had the Retribution, Retributioners or something like that. The Avengers, but their version.
They were kind of trying to set it up. I guess we'll get into it now. So they did Dr. Mordrid. They also did Doll Man, okay, which he's like this fucking grizzly cop from space that gets shrunk down to like 13 inches tall and deposited on Earth. Like he doesn't even get shrunk down. It's like on his planet he's normal size, but when he comes to Earth he's whatever 13 inches is equivalent to like 1/6 of our size, basically. And then they also did Mandroid, which is kind of like Full Moon's Iron Man, I guess, where it's like this robot fucking exoskeleton type suit thing that this dude in a wheelchair controls with like this headset. And then they did Invisible, The Chronicles of Benjamin Knight, which is all about this dude who, through a laboratory accident, gets turned invisible. And so they were kind of clearly setting up like this team of superheroes, basically. And I believe it's at the end of Invisible, maybe, where like the movie's ending and as a little nod, they kind of say, oh, maybe I'll visit this city or this city. And he's talking about the city from Dollman and from Mordrid. So they were thinking about combining it all,
Right.
And that could have been really cool because there's like a good rogues gallery of villains in Full Moon that they could have went up against at various points. Seeing those villains team up to create larger stakes, for the conflict would have been really cool.
Right.
But like many plans from the 90s with Full Moon, it never came to pass because they ended up screwing up their deal that they had with Paramount. So they lost a huge portion of their funding and things changed. They started making much lower budget movies and kind of sucked ass for a while. But then they got back on their feet in like the 2010s and they're pretty good these days again. But there was dark times there in the early 2000s after they lost that Paramount money. But yeah, Mordrid definitely had potential to
I'm
do
surprised we
really
don't
cool
see these
stuff.
movies on Paramount Plus. If
Well,
Paramount was
they're-
funding some of them.
They were, but Charlie was able to successfully get his rights back from Paramount. He got sued over a Puppet Master box set at one point, which is just wild because it's his franchise that he made. But it was, one of those things that was produced in that interim when they lost the Paramount shit, but still didn't technically own the movies again or whatever. So he kind of got in trouble for putting out the box set because it was technically unauthorized or whatever. But yeah, man, I mean, it's, tons of potential for even just
Fucked up
direct
video that
sequels
shit.
to this, Oh, we got a comment here. Hey, it's Michael McNally. What's up, buddy? Thanks for popping in.
Hello. Nice
Hey.
to meet you, Michael. Your name doesn't look familiar to me since I'm usually in Dave's discussions, so nice to meet you.
Oh yeah, Michael's a regular over here, so you'll see him again in the future, I'm sure. So I guess we could, we went over the plot basically. I mean, that's the gist of it. Cabal's running around trying to put together this spell. He gets some sweet heavy metal minions that he just kind of necks around with the girl, and then I think he sort of sacrifices her at one point. But the dude he sends off with like a sweet power up
after he fills up her nice titty, and then he sacrifices her. Like, what a waste! Such a good
It's a bummer. We do get a very buff, basically naked Brian Thompson, which isn't necessarily a highlight for me, but I imagine there's those out there that would enjoy that.
Yeah, that might be something I enjoyed that. Personally, I enjoyed the chick, but
yeah, to each their own,
but we didn't get to see much of her, unfortunately. Well, we did, but for a short time.
Yeah, they should have kept her around a while longer. And so basically he's he's causing his chaos, and Mordrid is kind of inadvertently being blamed for it, because they share, like a symbol in common. That's the symbol of whatever magical order they were trained in or whatever. So Mordrid got the... Go ahead.
I was just saying, because they both were trained in the same place. And, they were trained both as kids together.
Yeah, there's a lot of that element there that reminds me of the movie Wizards. It's a Ralph Bakshi movie from like the 70s. And the whole deal of it is there's like these two yin and yang kind of wizards that were raised and trained together, but one became evil and one's like good,
Yep.
And so Mordrid, ends up getting arrested and having to bust out of the fucking police station with the help of Yvette Nipar. I love that part where he's sitting there with the handcuffs on, and then he's finally had enough and he just kind of flips them off. That's like
right.
Yeah, it's a classic, like any of us could do that trick. It's not even really a magic trick, but it looks like one. And the way he pulls it off is pretty smooth. But yeah, so he's kind of on the run from the cops because they think he's doing it. Meanwhile, he's trying to stop the whole thing.
And of course, she helps
worse.
him, but then he pulls a gun out of thin air and pulls it on her to make it look like he has her as a hostage, so she doesn't get in trouble.
Which is good thinking, because she would have been in very, very serious trouble for helping him escape, pretty much.
Right.
And, so this leads to a showdown between our magicians or whatever you want, alchemist and our wizard.
We all know they're wizards, but, they call them alchemists.
Yeah, it's pretty badass, man. I mean, that whole final showdown between them and them animating the dinosaurs and everything is just
the dinosaurs are cool. But damn, he was. I mean, at one point he goes, "You're too late," and I'm thinking the same thing. Boy, he took a long time to help those security guards. I mean, one guy just totally got killed, and the other one was just about dead before he finally acted and helped him out. I'm like, damn, not much of a hero, is he?
Yeah, he was lagging there for a minute.
he was a
I
little
think he's
slow.
looking at the larger stakes of the situation, though. He's trying to save our whole reality, kind of,
That
not
is Doctor
necessarily
Strange,
just.
like, I
Yeah,
guess.
that's pretty true to him, actually. I mean,
Yeah.
there's moments in like No Way Home where
There is.
Strange kind of has that thing
Well,
going
not
on.
No
where
Way
he-
Home. In Endgame,
that
definitely.
too.
Definitely.
But yeah, I mean,
amazing.
there's
And
No Way Home's got that whole bit
Infinity
where
War.
he's like, these guys might go back and die, Peter, but think of the larger
Oh yeah,
situation
they're
here.
they're meant to be. They're
You
meant
can't
to have
save
died.
everyone,
Yeah, they're meant to have been dead there. Like when we can't save them.
It's their fate.
We just send them back. Yeah, it's their fate. And they were never supposed to be brought there in the first place. Peter screwed up a spell.
I mean, Mordrid doesn't come out and say it, but him just letting security guards die is a good indication that may be something that they share.
Only one. He saved the other one.
Yeah. I think it was more incidental to the fact that he was gonna, engage with the dude anyways. But
I love how he used the dinosaur to ram him with the horn. You're just like, you saw some blood splurt out.
Yeah,
but
it
was kind of short. It was a short fight.
Yeah, there's a lot of
longer.
build up to it, and then it kind of wraps up pretty quickly. They don't linger on it too long, which is definitely a detriment to the movie. It could easily be a solid 20 minutes longer, and that would have allowed them to expand various scenes. But I don't know. Overall, I think it does a really good job of doing what it's trying to do. Everybody's performances, especially Jeffrey Combs, you could tell that he was like really getting into being Mordrid. I think he embraced it. He was. I feel like probably a fan of the material, and
right.
It would be really cool to see him somehow have a cameo in like a Doctor Strange movie, just as a little nod to.
I like how he was a teacher too. He was a teacher of demonology and stuff. And
yeah, there's like the part where we get to see him doing a lecture or something like that. That's pretty interesting.
She goes to the lecture. And he said something funny. I forget what it was. Something about full moon. That explains why everyone's in this class. How the full moon makes some people crazy and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, makes people lunatics.
And that's kind of like a fun sort of nod to the studio itself too, right? Because they make all these weird movies.
Oh yeah.
Right, and it's called Full Moon. So yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So I mean, you guys, you approve of Jeffrey's performance as our titular doctor here?
Yeah,
I think he did a good job.
Good. Yeah, it would have been cool if they had him in Multiverse of Madness. Where they see another multiverse where it's him, and that would have been a cool nod if they had done that. I mean, I haven't seen it, so I don't know if they did, but probably didn't. But it would have been cool if they did.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess that they didn't. I do know. I'm pretty sure that Bruce Campbell has a cameo in it. I don't know for sure, but Sam Raimi did it, and I saw in some group someone posted about like, there's obviously it being a Sam Raimi movie, there's a cameo from a well-loved actor, and usually that means Bruce Campbell. So
right. I mean, Bruce Campbell was in the Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, so
If I ever get to make a Doctor Strange movie, Mordrid would be in there, even if it was just for a brief moment, just as a little like wink, wink, to all the people that had
well, I
seen
mean, they're doing the multiverse, so this would be the perfect time to do it, like, Doctor Strange in a different world, but he's called Dr. Mordrid, it would just be cool just to see him for a minute, just like a little nod to the movie.
Yeah, like in this recent Spider-Man movie where they, you know what they did with alternate universes. Not sure if I should spoil it for those who maybe haven't seen the movie yet.
Fuck them. Yeah.
Come on.
You haven't seen it yet.
I-
I mean, I slacked, and even I've seen the movie at this point. So,
I've seen it on day one, so ain't
Yeah.
spoiling nothing for me.
but no, they totally could do that. It would be rad if, he came through and like Strange is there. I always forget the Asian guy's name that's hanging out with Strange. Wong. Yeah,
What's
it'd be
wrong with
funny
you?
if. Yeah, it'd be
can't remember
sweet
his
if
name?
like Mordrid came through and he's at some point he's like, "You have a sidekick," and Wong's like, "I'm not a sidekick." Yeah, because he's technically the Sorcerer Supreme, right?
Right. Because technically,
um,
Doc Strange is hid for 5 years.
Yeah, so it's that'd be a fun way to nod to it briefly and to have some fun jokes. So we talked a little bit about Brian Thompson, but I guess we could touch on him again. He, I think, does a
You
great
can
job
touch
as
him. I
the
don't want to
villain.
touch him.
Somebody did during that church scene, I'm sure. Yeah, he's great, man. I mean, I wouldn't say he's like he's not leading villain quality for most stuff. I'll say
Right.
that much. It is nice to see him get the chance to be the big bad in this, but
Yep.
when you really are watching it, you can kind of tell it's like, all right, yeah, this guy is a little wooden sometimes. Like, he looks really cool and he can be super menacing and somehow makes even that badass mullet that he has super fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was just crazy. I mean, he never has hair, and it's like, whoa, dude has
he
hair.
had plenty in this one. Yeah, they let him go nuts with it.
It's like crazy. That's why I had to look at his face like 4 times just and do double takes. Like, am I really seeing him? I mean, I didn't know his name. I had to look afterwards because he's just that guy that we see all the time. Like that Chinese actor with the long hair. You know what I'm talking about? Who's always a villain in every fucking thing.
Yeah, he's like that guy from that thing, but most people don't.
Exactly.
Never
like you don't know his name.
You know?
Like, and then I read his name, like Brian Johnson. It sounds like such a normal, non-Hollywood type name. Like really, like it just doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't fit him. I don't think at all.
His first and his last. It just sounds like it would be like a real estate agent.
Right, exactly. It sounds like a real estate. It doesn't sound like an actor. It sounds like he might have changed it. Like he had like a unique name and he changed it for some reason.
He does look like he would have some type of like Scandinavian name that he would think wouldn't play well on like movie credits, so he would changed it to a stage name that's just generic as fuck.
Right,
you might be onto something. Yeah, I think that's a possibility for sure. But again, I mean, he's not bad, but he's also not great. So I can understand why.
Not super awesome, but it was cool to see him as the big bad instead of just the big muscle right hand guy. Right hand stuff.
Are there times when his dialogue reminds you why he usually is a henchman? Yes, but I'll give him a pass. What do you guys think about Yvette Napar's character?
Let me just check on IMDb. I kind of didn't memorize the actors' names.
That's the
cop lady,
consultant lady, that she teams up with in the movie.
My only complaint is I wanted to see her tits.
I feel that, dude. I think a lot of us that are fans of Mordrid kind of have a little crush on Yvette Napar. There's something about her, man. She's like super 90s hot,
Yeah, she's definitely really hot. Just like even when she was at work where she looks like she was all business, like trying to be all business. She just with the glasses and everything.
I like those glasses, man.
It's like she goes to bed and goes leave those glasses on. Rip your clothes off and leave those glasses on.
Well, I would say maybe for the second main character, she kind of lacks some backstory, some character development. She could have been fleshed out better than she was. Like we don't get to know so much about her.
True.
Then again, the movie's like 70 minutes long, so they didn't really leave a lot of time
to be fair,
more than the main character.
Yeah, you're just kind of inserted into this particular episode of Mordrid's career as this watcher of Earth or whatever. So we barely get anything on him too. But to
we just barely
Boris's
get all the
point, we
background
do
on
get
him.
more than we do with Yvette's character. But I mean, I like her because she's not quite a hard-boiled cop, because she's not really a cop, but she is like, I guess, yeah, she's experienced and I guess streetwise enough as an investigator or whatever, that she doesn't ever come across as like a damsel in distress character.
Yeah, she's definitely not a damsel in distress at all. I mean, she helped him. If anything, he was more of the damsel.
You're dead on with that.
So yeah, definitely she ain't the damsel type. But
she even has to protect his body at one point when he's like astral projecting.
She wasn't cocky and I hate men type either. And I mean, she clearly felt for him and liked him a lot, and it was great. It was a normal thing.
The way that's portrayed is really nice too. The whole romantic element of the movie. Other movies that are longer, or you get what I'm saying, right? Like other movies would have made that a bigger deal than it needed to be.
Right.
Whereas the romantic element in this,
they
is very
touched on
subtle.
it, and then the end, you definitely saw. Yeah, she's in his apartment, taking care of the Raven, wishing that he was there, and then he shows up and.
It's so good.
Oh yeah, the Raven was cool.
Yes.
Although instead of Edgar Allan, I would have named him Damien myself.
Well, Edgar Allan Poe wrote the poem Raven, and that's why he named it.
I know.
I thought the name was perfect, so I liked it.
No,
I could
of
understand
course,
the urge
I was just joking because I'm a fan of the Omen franchise. So whenever I see a Raven, the first thing I think of is the Raven from Damien Omen 2. So
first thing I think of is
like a swarm of them that peck the shit out of some lady in the second one.
Oh yeah, that's
badass.
I find that scene quite interesting. When I watched the movie for the first time, I actually laughed at that scene, and
it's great.
Found it, I found it amusing how it was supposed to be scary at the time when it was made. Yet nowadays, I found it more hilarious. But then again, I also read the novelization of that movie, and in the book it actually is described as rather gruesome. In the book I didn't find it as funny as I did in the movie.
I've never read the books, so I'll have to check those out. I do know this: if you get killed by a swarm of birds, you pretty much deserve to die. I mean, how can you not fight a bird, I just grab those crows and start snapping necks.
A swarm of birds is probably going to kill you, dude. I mean, they call it murder, aren't they?
Yeah, but I think
oh yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm pretty sure I could take that swarm of crows.
I don't know, dude. I mean, I wouldn't want to test the theory because we don't have Mo around anymore if you lose.
It'd be a good way to go.
I can fight these birds.
He died valiantly fighting a murder of crows.
Birds.
Yeah, well, I made. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, dude.
Oh, well, what I was going to say was a joke, nothing important. I was going to say maybe I don't have many ravens, but I have a lot of owls in my room.
That is true.
There you go.
I think I'd be more scared of a fucking swarm of owls because they're usually solitary creatures. So it's like, what's causing them to swarm? I think I would be so fucking scared of that.
That would be a hoot apocalypse.
Yeah, apocalypse. Fucking.
That just reminds me. It just made me think of a movie idea of owl apocalypse.
I would love that. Something like Birdemic, but with owls and hopefully better animated.
Just eating people and fucking hacking up those sweet owl pellets. That'd be awesome.
Right. I'd love that.
We had to dissect those in school. And I found like I was like one of the only kids that got an entire mouse skeleton inside of the owl pellet. Usually you get like a piece or two, but I was able to put together basically a full little mouse. It was pretty rad.
No,
Wow.
we weren't dissecting owls. Fortunately, I would have hated to do something like
No,
that.
no. We didn't dissect owls. Like owls, when they eat shit, it all forms into like this clump of crap that they then hack up like a hairball. And we had to pick those apart. We didn't dissect an owl. I would have hated that too. Yeah,
okay.
we just basically dissected owl poop, if you want to call it that.
Okay, that's
sounds like a shitty deal to me.
Yeah, well, it's not really poop, but that's the closest. I don't know if owls actually poop like a normal animal would. I think they poop like bird-style poop. But, you know, they've got to hack up the bones and hair and everything like that. And that's basically what the pellet is. So interesting stuff, man. I don't know of any other animals. I mean, I'm not a zoologist or anything, so I'm not an expert. But if there's any other animals that hack up sweet fucking pellets of skeletons and shit, let us know. I kind of forget where we were going with this. Oh, Yvette Napar. Yeah, she's good. You know, Brian Thompson's good. Obviously, Jeffrey Combs is great as Mordrid. There's not really a huge cast of characters in the movie. No. I mean, I think outside of that, we pretty much see their neighbors in the apartment building, a couple of cops, you know, and then his sidekicks, which we already kind of talked about, but there's not really too much to say about them. I mean, it's just like a heavy metal dude and his girlfriend. That
I think it's funny how that heavy metal dude just escaped like with no magic or nothing. He just escaped.
Yeah, he's just a wild son of a bitch, dude.
Oh yeah, I really loved it. He blew up a police car. When I saw that, I yelled, "Spudow!"
Spudow! Definitely a Spudow moment.
Right? Okay, maybe most audience won't be familiar with that inner joke, but it's something from the game Plants vs. Zombies, when something explodes in that game and the word Spudow appears on the screen.
So, it fits. I mean, it sounds like kind of comic book influenced, you know? That's what I thought you were getting at, was like, you know, those, whatever they call them, onomatopoeias that they use in comics to, you know, spell out the sound effects.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, so first he did that, and then he basically Spudow! Yeah, he Spudowed himself into getting arrested on purpose. And then when he got to the precinct, he was like, Kamal is gonna eat your asses. Like he was mocking them all. All the figures of human authorities, he was just making fun of them. That was brilliant. I love that part.
Oh yeah, dude. And it's great how he like gives him that invincibility spell, but it wears off, you know, so he thinks that he can still like take bullets and shit, and it's just no.
He's like, hey, that hurt.
Yeah.
That buff has expired, bro. you're officially dead. I think that whole sequence with him is one of my favorite bits in the movie, outside of obviously the stop motion dinosaurs and like the showdown between Cabal and Mordrid, and when they visit the prison dimension or whatever you want to call it. But another favorite portion is just, I like the idea of her guarding his body while he astral projects. It's just a cool sort of element that they didn't really need to include, but it adds a bit of tension.
Yeah, it was definitely cool.
Yeah,
and of course the you know, the rock dude, metal dude tried to kill him, and she's fighting him off, and then he wakes up and he goes, and then he's like, "Close your eyes," and he stuns him, and then she kicks him in the nuts. That was great.
Yeah, that was so fucking good, dude. What other movie does
his
that?
master's dead. Oh, his master's dead. In that case, bam.
Yeah, right in the nuts.
Right in the nerds.
I don't know. You guys got any other favorite moments in the movie that we haven't touched on?
Let me think. I loved all the scenes when they were making fun of the police, like when Mordrid was like, "I don't give a shit that I'm here, but I have to get out to save people. I need my amulet," and so on. Like he was showing that he doesn't really take the police very seriously, which I also found amusing. And of course,
Yeah.
all the explosions and stuff. I loved that. The Raven was cool, as I already said. Oh, what else? Uh, well, maybe. Oh, yeah, and the demonic stuff in Cabal scenes. I loved the aesthetics with the skulls, the candles, and things like that. That looked really cool.
It did,
Uh,
yeah. And I love the whole bit where like the demons are trying to bust out of that hatch and stuff. It's
oh yeah, the demons looked cool too.
yeah,
Looked
that really
I love it when the protector's like he's like I did it when he when after Dr. Mordrid killed the guy and the demons had to go back inside and he thought he did it with his rifle laser gun there.
Yeah,
yeah,
Like
that
I
was
did
pretty
it.
great.
I kind
That
of
guy
wish.
was go ahead, sorry.
I kind of wish we got to see more of those demons.
And that dude, I really liked that fucking Watchman guy. He was a fun character, and
Oh yeah, yeah, him too.
it would if they did a sequel to Mordred, it would have been really fun to see him like actually running around out in the world with Anton. I think is his first name. Is it
He's got a
Anton
sidekick
Mordred?
too. Tiz Wong.
I wonder if the whole Anton being because Steven is Doctor Strange's name, so the Anton thing I don't think has anything to do with Doctor Strange, but there is like an occult demonology aspect to this, and Anton LaVey, I think, is the dude who did the Satanic Bible.
Yeah.
So maybe
Yes,
it's meant to
I
be.
noticed that myself.
I was reminded of him too, but I didn't think it had anything to do, especially since this character was on the other side, not with the demons and stuff. But yeah, I was also reminded of LaVey.
Yeah, it's very possible that's a little like nod to it that they put in there. Old Charlie Band is a big fan of Easter eggs of his own stuff and little referential things to other things, you know. So it wouldn't surprise me if that was intentional. But yeah, it would be really cool to see that Watchmen character more in a sequel. I mean, Jeffrey Combs is still alive. I don't see why they couldn't do a Dr. Mordred sequel right now, you know. Unfortunately, it's not the most popular movie in Full Moon's catalog. It's more of a sleeper hit for a lot of us that watch it, you know, watch a lot of their movies. I definitely think it's one of their more accessible movies, though. I think you could put this in front of most older comic fans or, you know, people that are accustomed to comic shit that's not just the big tentpole Marvel movies that happen every year. And most people will like it. I mean, if you're a fan of like, you know, The Shadow or Dark Man or any of that shit they were doing in the 90s, I think this fits in really well with it, like I said. And it's just, you know, it's a goddamn shame that we didn't get what did you call it? The Revengers, or what was your name that you
Redemptioners
or something?
The Revengers.
Yeah, they really, at least in comic form, I would love to see Full Moon's Revengers be a thing. You know, you got Dollman in there, you got Dr. Mordred, you know, Benjamin Knight, the Invisible Dude, Mandroid. Maybe they team up with the Puppet Master puppets to, you know, deal with some massive villain or a team of villains from Full Moon movies. That would be really cool. It's an idea I've thrown around a lot, and you know, Charlie's not listening, but he's gonna one day. God damn it!
Listen, Charlie.
Yeah, you gotta do the Revengers, bro. This is what we need. We need the Full Moon cinematic universe.
We
the
do.
FCU. Or the FMCU.
The FMCU. Right?
Yeah.
Hedwig agrees. Hedwig agrees. I think we need to make it happen, Charlie.
Yeah, sorry
Angel,
about
Charlie.
the sounds.
So we sort of briefly touched on set design, especially you, Boris, when you were talking about the whole aesthetic of the Cabal sort of demonology stuff. But really, in general, and we touched on the miniatures for the prison dimension. But just overall, you know, the set design of the movie is impeccable. I think all the locations feel like real locations. His apartment, especially, it's badass. And they even shot, I think, in like Central Park or something, or whatever the equivalent of Central Park is in whatever city they were shooting this in. So you get them like actually outside and going around the town, you know, which is something a lot of these lower budget movies don't have. Usually they're all shot on kind of standing sets a lot of the time. So they're, you know, it's not very often you get them out in public in the way that it feels like you do in Mordrid, which is a cool touch. It makes the movie feel a bit bigger than it would otherwise, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We haven't really touched on music at all, and I think that that's a huge point in the movie's favor, is that score by Richard Band. He's the brother of Full Moon, you know, head honcho Charles Band. He's done the score for a lot of these. Some might say that he rips Danny Elfman off pretty frequently. I don't think that Richard would disagree, but he does a good job of doing it. I don't know. Did you guys like the music in this?
Well, well, it was the first time I watched it, so I didn't really pay that much attention. But yeah, from what I heard, it sounded fitting. Yeah.
They maybe are guilty in this one of repeating the main theme of the movie a little too often. Like, there's only, I think, 3 or 4 pieces of music in there, and there's kind of the main Mordrid theme that ends up looping over scenes later on, which is almost it's a bit fortuitous, I think is the word, because later Full Moon would use that same music for all of their like promo clips at the beginning of their DVDs. So you hear the Mordrid theme a lot when you watch Full Moon stuff, because it's over the whole, you know, buy our movies spiel that's at the beginning of the DVDs and stuff. So it's iconic in the grander scheme of Full Moon, but within the movie it is solid, if a bit overplayed. I don't know if you guys noticed that. But
yeah, I mean, it was decent. You know, I mean, you know, the music wasn't awesome, but it wasn't bad. I mean, it kind of hit the movie, you know.
Right. And there is something to be said about, you know, repeating the main theme music in a movie. It can be rad. It's sort of like when you're watching an anime or playing a video game and you hit a key point and that main theme music comes back and you're like, oh shit, stuff just got epic. They're playing like the main theme over the scene right now, you know. But they do it so often in Mordrid that after like the 3rd or 4th time, you're like, all right, you know, I get it.
We get it.
It's a solid piece of music, Richard, but maybe you should have. Come on, Dick. Why don't you write a few more tunes for this bitch so you didn't have to recycle that first one so many times? I think it's interesting to note too that this is one of those movies that Charles co-directed with his dad, which to a large extent means that Albert, his dad, actually kind of directed it. Usually when he would co-direct with his dad, it meant that Charles was also bouncing back and forth between, I think, like Romania or whatever, and the States, because they had a studio over there in Romania back in the day. And so they were making a lot of movies simultaneously. And what makes that interesting is that Albert is an old-time, like, classic Western director and shit. Which you don't really get to see shine through in this, but when you watch other movies they did, like Robot Wars, you can really tell, like, okay, yeah, I can see how this dude was like making Westerns in the 60s or whatever. I believe his dad was one of the first people to ever cast Marilyn Monroe, if not the first person to cast Marilyn Monroe. Wow. So he's often credited with kind of discovering her. So it's interesting to have such a classic director, like, totally not the same genre of movies, directing something like this, you know. It'd be like if Clint Eastwood directed a Marvel movie now, you know. It just wouldn't really make sense, but at the same time it's kind of interesting, you know.
Yes, I mean, obviously he must be a fan. Why else would he do it? You know?
I mean, I can't speak to it. I've, never known him, and there isn't a super like ton of interviews with Albert, but he seems like one of those old school filmmakers that he's just a fan of people making movies despite whatever limitations they might have. Everybody's stories of him seem to always be that he was super encouraging and always had really good advice. He might not have been like known for making horror films or sci-fi stuff, but he was known for making a lot of movies. And so, even though it wasn't like, similar genre wise, he had good advice for low budget filmmakers and actors and everything like that. Seemed to have stuck with a lot of them. Most of the people that worked on these movies that Albert was involved in seem to have better memories of Albert than they do of Charles. He's like this old sagely guy that used to make Western movies and for some reason is shooting a giant robot film, Mostly it's just a way to help out his kid, which is also kind of adorable too. It's like bringing an old fucking Major League Baseball player out of retirement to coach Little League while you're busy, like, doing other stuff for other teams. And that's kind of what was going on with Albert and Charles. So just a little wholesome element that this movie has that, other stuff doesn't. I can't think of too many movies where a dad and his son co-directed them, I'm sure they're out there.
I can't think of any. So.
Yeah, I can't think of any myself. I'm sure they've got to be out there. I'm sure it's happened, but Albert and Charles are like the example I know of. So, and they've done it several times. So, I guess I don't know what else. We did kind of briefly show the poster at the beginning. I guess we could pop that bad boy up real quick and share our thoughts on it. I've always really liked it. If you notice, it's actually hanging on the wall behind me, just back there.
Yeah, actually, I noticed. I was going to ask if Krol was the one who picked this movie. How come you already have a poster of it behind you?
Oh, it's a favorite, man. This.
Yeah, he told me about the movie, and so I said, no, why don't we go on to one of your full moon discussions and discuss it sometime. This was months ago that we said we'd do that, and we just haven't done it until now.
Actually like last year, dude.
Yeah, it might have been. It's been quite a while, but yeah. So that's the story. Is he told me about it, and so that sounds interesting. And then I know he loves to do his live full moon stuff. I said, why don't I watch it and we do a live streaming together? And he said, yeah, it's a great idea. So that's where it came from.
Fucking A, man. And I'm glad that you got in on it. I'm glad you got in on this, Boris. I assume this is probably your first full moon movie, maybe.
I think so, yeah. Thank you.
Didn't you say Ghoulies is full moon?
Ghoulies was Empire, which was full moon before they rebranded themselves from Empire.
I've seen that. I know I've seen that. I don't know if I've seen any others. As far as I know,
it's
this
possible.
is my first full moon proper. But I may have seen others. I'm not sure. So,
have you? Castle Freak is one that a lot of people have seen that haven't necessarily watched full moon intentionally. Reanimator is probably the biggest, most famous movie.
I've heard of that one, but I haven't seen it.
Oh, I think you would love it, dude. It's like such a fun sort of modern twist on the Frankenstein idea, I guess.
Yeah.
And also stars Jeffrey Combs. Like Mordrid is the main dude in Reanimator. There's other ones. I mean, like, obviously Ghoulies, Troll, Metal Storm. There's tons of movies they did back then before they had rebranded to Full Moon that people don't necessarily, associate with them now, but they should. Also, oh god damn it, it was right there on the tip. From Beyond, that's another good one. Also stars Jeffrey Combs.
Damn.
But yeah, man, I mean, it's would you guys say that this has maybe intrigued you to check out more full moon movies?
Possibly.
I think you should, Boris. I think there's a lot in that library you would enjoy. It's a very varied catalog of films.
Well,
it's not
I already
all
told
just
you
straight
that
horror films.
I want to come on and discuss the arcade with you. So
That's gonna be a good one. That's like their fucked up version of Tron. And it's a good time. It's also got another full moon hottie in there, Megan Ward. She's a favorite of mine, and I know my buddy Chris Pico has also got that love for Megan Ward. Her name is actually Megan, but I used to mispronounce it all the time, and I just think it's funner to say it that way. She's fucking stupid hot though, dude. We also get a young Seth Green in Arcade.
Really?
Yeah, and Peter Billingsley, I believe his name is, old Ralphie from The Christmas Story. He's in there as like an older kid or a young adult. We actually get to hear him say fuck instead of fudge. So that's pretty good. That's good time.
Only I didn't say fudge. I said the F word.
Dude, he actually redid all the special effects for the movie, or helped direct the special effects for the movie, if I remember right, like all the CG sequences, you know. So that's pretty cool. I think you're really going to enjoy Arcade. And I mean, like I said, you know, it's just very varied catalog. Do they do a lot of horror? Yes, lots of horror films, lots of creature features. They don't really do like slasher movies or stuff like that, which, as much of a fan as I am of that stuff, I kind of see Charles's point. Like, everybody was doing that, so what it didn't interest him.
I'm not a fan of that.
I like them, but I can see how somebody would be like, everybody else is already doing that, so I'm not really interested.
I like monsters like vampires and werewolves and
subspecies. They got you there.
Huh?
I'm not against slashers, but I find the more psychological horror more interesting than just killings and stuff.
I like the physical horror, but I like physical horror with like I said, werewolves and vampires and things like that.
Yeah,
I like ghost. I like ghost movies. I like paranormal movies.
I think that you'd be fairly blown away by their subspecies series. I've mentioned it before, but it is.
I have heard.
I'm not even huge into vampires, but
I do want to see that. I feel like I saw one of them. I feel like I
might have. I feel like Subspecies would have been one of those movies that if you saw it like come on TV or at a video store or something, you'd probably have picked it up back in the day. Just because it stands out so much. I mean, the cover too, when it's actually right there on the wall. You know, it's all these minions like holding this chick that's like laid out, and then you got fucking Radu, this big creepy like Nosferatu looking vampire motherfucker standing behind him. It's a striking image. But they've got that, you know, they've got Full Moon tends to lean into exactly what you guys are talking about. Like, there might be some gruesome violence in the movie, but it's filtered through a more interesting idea than just a dude with a mask like killing someone, you know. Usually they like a lot of inanimate things coming to life. Oh yeah. They've got a lot of inanimate things coming to life, killer toys, killer dolls. They've got a lot of like weird mutant creatures. Obviously vampires is a thing for Full Moon. I don't know that they've ever really done a werewolf movie,
which is ironic because it's called Full Moon, so you would think they would do werewolves.
You'd think it would be a huge thing, but the closest they did do a remake of the Wolfman back in the day when they briefly tried to launch this classic monsters line.
No shit.
I think they did Wolfman Reborn, Mummy Reborn, and Frankenstein Reborn, or maybe they only did 2 of them, and like the third
Dracula
one didn't actually get made. They intended to do it, but you know, that's an unfortunate part of Full Moon's history is ambition that was well ahead of its time that couldn't be fully realized because no one wanted to give Charlie money to actually complete it, you know. So I mean, genius trying to launch your own line of like Universal Monster revamps in the 90s, you know, because that was when they were pushing a lot of that to kids again. I'm definitely a result of that, you know. In the 90s, for some reason, like Universal Monsters became really popular again for a while. So you could there was like Happy Meal toys, I think, at one point for them and shit.
Really?
So Charles was smart enough to see that and be like, boom, we're doing it. Another thing that, you know, people fucking owe him money, you know. Marvel owes him fucking money for that whole connected movie universe idea, because Full Moon had pioneered that way back in the 90s, you know. tons of their movies interconnect. It's like it is a whole MCU thing already, you know. And basically Marvel took exactly the formula Full Moon used to use for that and just did it on a much larger scale, even down to the post-credit scenes, dude. At the end of fucking Bad Channels, there's a post-credit scene with Doll Man that then ties it into Doll Man versus Demonic Toys. So it's just a thing that they definitely aped from Charles Band. Another thing that Full Moon kind of pioneered that we can all be grateful for today is special features, in the sense that we think of them. You know, at the end of every Full Moon tape, there would usually be like a video catalog showing new stuff that they were going to be coming out with, and then there would be behind the scenes featurettes, you know, which is just not something you saw back then. Occasionally you'd get something like with Terminator. I think they had like a special VHS you could buy that was like a making of feature on it, but not ever attached to the tape. Like as a kid, when I would rent Full Moon, you always watched past the credits because there would be the video zone at the end, which showed all the behind the scenes stuff and upcoming Full Moon shit. So
that's cool.
Just always ahead of the curve, and just unfortunately that can be a detriment when you're that far ahead of the curve, you know. It'd be nice to see him get the recognition that he deserves from all these big Hollywood people that have sort of repackaged stuff Full Moon used to do and arguably done it better, you know, but I don't think that they would have done it in the same way if this shit didn't exist, you know. And then when you think about how many horror people are actually involved in the modern Marvel product, it makes a lot of sense, you know. You've got dudes like James Gunn, who used to work for Troma back in the day. Bryan Singer was early in on the fucking Marvel stuff, and he was like working on Street Trash and movies like that.
Singer is also Superman as well.
Yep. So it's, and then you got Sam Raimi doing fucking Spider-Man movies, and now Doctor Strange. And I mean, he did Evil Dead and was definitely plugged into.
And Sam Raimi did Xena and Hercules as well.
One of the movies he produced back in the day, Intruder, actually is released through Full Moon. That's the way that you get that movie, is you buy it from Charles Band and those dudes. So there's still some association there. Even dudes like J.J. Abrams, you know, who is involved in, you know, not necessarily Marvel, but
Star Wars and Star Trek.
Yeah, there's a lot of these big Hollywood muckety muck dudes that started in horror nowadays, which is fun to think about.
Jar Jar Abrams.
They should just plug Charlie Band into a fucking Marvel movie. That'd be sweet. And he was friends with Stan Lee, so, you know, with Stan gone, why not? Charles could be the cameo in every Marvel movie. I don't know, man. The Mordrid, I mean, would you guys recommend this to other people to check out? And if so, what would be your selling point for it?
I'd just say, you know, a fun, lower budget Doctor Strange movie that should have been Doctor Strange that wasn't. And tell them, you know, basically they set out to make a Doctor Strange movie. You know, they lost the license to have Doctor Strange change the name and still got the movie. So, you know, check it out.
Yeah.
If you want to see like something like an alternate version of Doctor Strange, this is a good movie. Also, if you want to see an interesting combination of sci-fi and demonology, it's also an interesting one. Or if you want to see characters messing around with cops, it's also a good one.
You want to see some nice titties that
you want to see
in the 80s?
Fucking naked Brian Thompson fondling some sweet teats. This is also a good option for that as well. It really is just kind of a master class in old school set design and stop motion, and it's got some great visual effects in there too that we didn't really touch on, like not just physical miniatures or stop motion or sets or anything, but like, you know what I'm saying, like the digital effects, I guess you would call it. This is a great example of an early, you know, foray into that, I would think. Because that shit was still just becoming like a thing in the early 90s, where you would see like computerized effects in movies and whatnot. And Mordred's got some of those in there, and they might not be fantastic by today's standards, but they're not bad. So yeah, I don't know. I always just tell people basically what I told you, Krol, which is that it's Full Moon's Doctor Strange movie.
Yeah.
I think arguably, had it been released as a Doctor Strange movie, it would be a little less interesting to talk about now, though. It
Right.
kind of, I think, be talked about more in the same vein as like that Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie, where it's like, yeah, it's a Doctor Strange movie they did in the 90s. It wasn't
Or the
very.
Captain America with the shield on the motorcycle, or
That's a different story.
or the no talking Spider-Man movies they did on Saturday.
Yeah, or the old Fantastic Four movie. Those
That we
are
try to forget about.
yeah, those are a different story. I think this. I didn't even mention that one too. That Dolph Lundgren Punisher is pretty good.
I like
I've
that
always been
movie.
a fan of it.
I didn't like the other one too.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd typically tell people that it's a good movie that you should see if you're a fan of like early comic book films, because again, it does sit pretty well amongst its peers in that, I would say, and that's really about it, guys. I mean, it's super fun movie, and it's short, as we've touched on, so easy one to fit in there if you've got some time. Super good poster art, so if you like it, you should order that poster and hang it on your wall like I have. It's really ties the room together.
Right.
I don't know. I guess we'll close this out by each of us choosing our singular favorite moment in the film, and then you guys can plug anything that you've got going on. But Boris, you got a favorite moment in the movie if you had to pick just one?
It would probably be, as I mentioned already, the scene with Adrian, the metal guy, when he blew up the police car and then walked the cops when he was brought into the station. That would probably be my favorite part.
That is a solid one. What about you, Krol?
There's a few scenes that's good. It's hard to pinpoint just one. We already know one, but I won't say that's my favorite. Probably it was kind of cool the way they vanished from the police station, at least from inside the police station to the stairway, and the cops is just like shooting at air. And the other guy's like, "What are you doing?" That was kind of a good moment. So, guess I'll say that one.
That is a fun one. I don't. For me, I mean, again, there's a lot of great moments that we've already touched on, but in terms of smaller bits, I guess probably where Mordrid restores that Watchman's sight and their whole interaction during that scene is really cool. You can tell that guy's got a lot of love for Mordrid. And that he's kind of missed seeing him. It's been a while, So
and he's like, "Thank you isn't quite enough," like restore the sight.
Yeah, exactly. It's just such a great scene, and it really, plants a good seed of potential for that character in future installments that unfortunately we didn't get. Outside of that, though, I'm also very partial to that ending scene where she's like, take care of the Raven and waiting in the apartment, and then he obviously comes back. It's like, I don't know, it just brings a good sense of closure to all of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like she's all alone with the Raven and wishing on Christmas and wishing he was there, and then poof, he pops in and
Oh yeah, that was good. When he announced his disappearance earlier, I thought that would be it. I thought the movie would just end with him leaving Earth and then never seeing each other again. And I thought, if this is how it ends, I'm disappointed. But then they went for the good ending eventually.
Yeah, I'm always, as Krol knows, a fan of like bleak endings where characters are fucked over, but when it's appropriate, I think that this movie needed a happy ending. They really do a good job of making it a happy ending, but also making it the kind of thing that, again, plants like this seed of potential for future movies. That's the perfect way to end the movie if you're kind of hinting that you plan on doing more of them.
Right.
And it just didn't happen, but there's still time. Get on it, Charlie. You can
go, Charlie. We want to see
it. Yeah. just stop making evil bong movies. And fucking,
Oh, they got
and
they got that movie on the station that I watched, Voodoo. That's what I watched on. They
There you
have Evil Bong on there. So I was looking at it and I was like, oh, this is the movie they talk about, Evil Bong.
they're fun. I do enjoy them, and but thankfully, this current one that they just did is supposed to be their last. I would like to see some of that time and effort go into some bigger full moon projects again, because there's several that we've been promised that we haven't got yet. We could do a whole podcast on that shit, but yeah, man. I mean, that ending is just solid, so that would be my vote. And yeah, I think that about does it for Mordrid, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for
This has
having
been
me.
a good
Yes,
time.
thank
I
you
don't know.
for having me.
Thank you for coming all the way from Croatia, dude. You stepped through the fucking fourth dimension just like Mordrid and joined us over here.
Nice one.
Do
Nice
you
one.
think that this discussion went good, Boris? Did you enjoy yourself?
Yes, yes, I did. As you know, I usually participate only in Dave's discussions. Your way of doing it is very different, but yeah, it was definitely good. I had fun. As some of you may know, the discussion with Dave was postponed for tomorrow. So me coming on this one was unplanned, but I'm glad I did come, and
Yeah, me too,
I'm
dude.
glad that I watched the movie thanks to you guys. So thank you once again.
Yeah. Very nice surprise, man. And I believe tomorrow you guys are doing, what is it, South Park Bigger, Longer, Uncut?
Yep.
Yeah, yes,
You gonna be
yes.
there for that tomorrow, Mo? Or you working?
Maybe it depends. Tomorrow's Monday, so work can be kind of hectic. But if I can get done soon enough, I will certainly try to hop on. In the very least, I'll tune in when I'm at work and like comment in the live chat and stuff.
Cool.
Because I'm always needing stuff to listen to when I'm, delivering mail or working at the station. So,
May as well listen to us, yak on and on.
Yeah, I will definitely pin the link to Dave's channel in the comments below so that you guys can go pop over there and check them out when they do that. We're obviously, me and Krol are going to be doing Arcade. You're welcome to join for that, Boris. If you see any full moon movies, just searching into it that you think that you'd want to discuss, feel free to hit me up, dude, and we'll schedule one of these to go on about it. I always like encouraging people to check out stuff in the full moon library because there's so much of it people are familiar with without realizing it, and so much of it they probably passed in the video store back in the day and maybe looked at but didn't check out. So it's a fun library to pick through and all that.
Oh, we definitely need to talk about the vampire one when I go watch it again now.
Yes, dude. I think we fucking for sure should. Those like the franchise stuff, because I did that Evil Bong one with Brandon and that went really good. So I'm thinking the bigger franchise stuff for Full Moon, that's how I just want to cover it, is where we like just watch all the subspecies movies and then do a full franchise discussion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm up for that.
I'm pretty sure my buddy Andrew will join us for that as well, because he's a huge fan of subspecies. It's like his favorite full moon thing. So, and you're more than welcome on any of them that you can make. Boris, I'm usually not going to schedule these where they overlap with stuff. I mean, they're at people's discretion, but usually it'll be at a different time. I mostly set this one up at the time that I was trying to go on at, so that it would be convenient for you guys with the time you usually do it with Dave.
Thank you. Well, yeah, time zones are kind of a problem for me. And also, I tend to get busy a lot, so unfortunately, I cannot promise anything. But it would definitely be fun to join you guys every now and then.
For sure, dude. We'll give you a heads up, and that way you'll know if you can make it or not. And yeah, you'll always have time to like watch the movie and shit. That's the good thing too about most full moon movies being very economic in length. I don't actually think I've ever seen one that's 2 hours. I think they're all pretty much like an hour and 10 minutes for the most part.
Yeah, I get it.
So yeah, man. Next up is going to be Sorority Babes in the Slime Ball Bolorama with my good friend Gory O'Rotten this Wednesday. And then after that, I believe, well, we'll probably fit Arcade with Krol in there at some point in the near future. We've got Dead Hate the Living. Go ahead.
I don't know if this is full moon or not. Maybe you would know. But I seen another movie on Vudu. It was Space Babes from Space. They come to Earth, looking for sexual energy to refuel their ship.
Well, I don't know if that's full moon. They have Sorority Babes in the Slime Ball Bolorama. They have Slave Girls from Beyond Infinity. They've got Beach Babes from Beyond, but I don't know if they have Space Babes from Space.
Yeah.
The title immediately
like
intrigues
it's in
me,
that wheelhouse, though. So
yeah, for sure, dude. That sounds great. I'm sure we could fit that in here somewhere, but other full moon stuff that we have scheduled definitely is at some point Dustin, aka Cryptophore, is going to do Tourist Trap with me. We got the Dead Hate the Living with Septum Sin from Septum Sin versus the World. Dave chose what the fuck? Oh, Robot Wars is Dave's first one. So we've got a good slate of these lined up. If you guys want to follow me on Facebook, the Full Moon, Madness Facebook page.
Let me know when you do Robot Wars. I might watch it and join you.
Hell yeah, dude. I think you would enjoy that one as well. But yeah, just follow me on Facebook and you guys can stay up to date with our current list of discussions that we're putting out there. And, because we're trying to do discussions for my entire slate of films that I reviewed last year. So all those are up for grabs. You just got to claim, a movie and a time that you want to do it, and we'll bang it out. And as we've discussed here, you're always welcome to guest on someone else's episode as well. So just let us know. As always, I have been Mosley. You have been a bunch of sexy beasts. And this has been yet another episode of that Full Moon Madness, baby. See you back here soon. Oh, shit. As we're going out here, though, I do want to fucking show you guys this. So I went to a punk rock show last night. It was pretty fucking amazing. Ended up, just having a blast at the show. Got a ton of sweet merch. Met some of the band members and got pretty friendly with one of them. Overall a great concert experience.
How friendly?
Yeah, got nice and liquored up though. And afterwards we went to a Denny's, and apparently it was senior prom. So I met like some prom kids, the prom king actually. I made him take photos with me. So you'll see those there in the Facebook chat. He's pretty fucking stoked, dude. I was telling him, I'm like, you're the prince of the city, man. And he was fucking hyped on it. So I'll be a part of that guy's senior prom memory forever. I'm as proud of that as I am of this discussion. So enjoy. And when you see those prom kids, get a photo with them, because it's awkward and memorable.
Right?